Welcome to Charts Today. My name is David Linton, and today's edition for Friday, the 16th of January, comes to you from Sydney in Australia. Yes, I'm still here enjoying some warmer weather than a UK winter. And today I'm going to focus, look at commodities, but first of all, I click on the charts and I saw this one of the Indian rupee above the cloud. This is dollar versus the rupee. Dollar hasn't been particularly strong, but the rupee has been even weaker. And so interesting that we are just pushing higher there. So quite key. And if we look at the 60-minute chart, we see we've activated a new upside target there. So really quite key. So that means more rupee weakness. It's probably going to go lower. And what prompted me to look at that as well was I was looking at bond markets. I mentioned yesterday that the UK bond market, we're seeing yields falling. US is a bit more static, still above the cloud. But here we're seeing that rising trend here in bond yields from India, 6.7%, saying we're going considerably higher, above 7%. So interesting that we're seeing that, but still the currency is weaker. So quite an interesting one there. Looking at the stock indices, we go to the S&P future. We are up slightly this morning on that, so that looks like we're going to open higher. The Nasdaq future is also just looking a bit higher. We look at the E-mini on the Nasdaq, that's up about 1/3%. That has actually not quite yet activated. That's the cash market, not yet activated the upside target, but the future has. So it'd be very interesting to see whether the cash does as well. I've done a morning a market breadth session as an LSEG webinar today. You'll find that up on the updated website. Did a lot of market breadth on markets, especially the Nasdaq. That was given a couple of hours ago for Singapore, and then I'm recording that again at 2 a.m. this morning for the UK and the US market. So it's more professional users, but you can still see it on the updated website if you want to see market breadth across these markets. We saw here, we're seeing that just markets a little bit lower in Europe. So it's just quite key there. And even Japan, which has been a very strong market, trending very strongly there, has actually just held back a little bit today, but on its way to the target there. As we talked about India, that was up substantially, but the Sensex is really underperforming there. Looking at the 60-minute chart, we can see it's a very mixed picture. Targets in either direction, not activated yet. So that's really one to watch, and it is bearish below the cloud. So again, a very interesting picture just there for India. Looking at the Aussie market, where I am at the moment, a lot of resource stocks driving things higher. And I did a breadth analysis on the Aussie market as well in that LSEG seminar, but we can see we're just breaking back above the cloud here. We are actually underperforming on the all ordinaries, so we're seeing the small caps in Australia really starting to drive things, but good upside targets there on the short-term chart. This is the 60-minute, days ahead. Expect we have a better week next week for the market there, and it is climbing, so looking pretty good there. Looking at Brent crude, that is coming back quite substantially. We had less than a candle on the lagging line above the cloud. I have actually already just put out my morning call and we called crude oil neutral today. Gas very strong indeed in Europe, up 5%, and we called that bullish. That's already gone out on our report, on our morning call report to clients. Looking here at what else is going on. US nat gas nowhere near as strong as European gas, looking a bit weaker there on the chart, but we were looking at 1 minute targets. We've gone neutral there today. And now looking at some commodities, and I do this from my other list here, just to go towards the end of the week. Of course, all eyes have been on precious metals, so let's just start with that. Gold, this is the daily chart in gold, pushing towards the target. Target was given at 4,200 to 4,700. You can't ignore the targets. Silver, no big surprises here. Upside targets given and met. There's a target even higher. Just hit the T key on your system or do these on TradingView or Bloomberg. Platinum and palladium are down 2%, but platinum is looking very much like an ascending triangle there. And that, if we break higher, we activate a very big upside target, so 45% higher. So looking big, and those targets were met as well. And palladium, we can see here also just upside target, more of a symmetrical triangle building there. So quite interesting that we're still seeing a bit more volatility there for palladium. Now, looking at metals, we covered the energy market. We're looking at metals first of all. Just some of the base metals. Aluminium, that's pulled back about 2%. So that's been really quite key. And that's certainly strong. Probably the metal that we most want to look at is copper. That's really having a surge as well, behind gold and silver, pushing higher. Targets given much lower back in the summer, they've all been met, really in a very strong trend. So that's quite key. Lead, not really very clear, big sideways range there, so that's quite key. Zinc, really just running higher now and really in a strong recovery mode. No clear targets on the daily, but if we go to the 60-minute, we do see here that we've got a bit of a mixed picture. Just having run, we've now got to see which way we go on the targets. Remembering, I just pressed the T key to put them on there. So we've got a little bit of a mixed picture there for zinc on the short-term chart. Taking a look at some of the others, lithium. I actually called this partly on the basis of what cobalt was doing. This is the line for cobalt. Cobalt last year went from $10 to $25, and we really had an upside target, still much higher still, and we felt that would filter through to lithium, which is why that LSEG, you can watch that LSEG webinar on the updated website as well. We called lithium when it was 10. It's now at 18.50. An 85% increase in price in a few weeks. So that has been that was one of our big calls for 2026. It's already well underway. And then nickel, just waiting to see what happens here. But again, we've got this big jump to the upside. And if we look at the 60-minute chart, that's also just playing out as well, waiting for a new high to activate that new upside target. Bit of a mixed picture. So taking a look at some of the soft commodities, oats, we can see here on the daily downside target, but a new upside target potentially crossing the cloud. Soybeans, we see here again new downside target breaking below the cloud. Rice, I mean, who would look at rice? But really interesting how those targets to the downside have been met. That's been a very bearish situation. Hogs, you literally look at any chart you like here, and there's new upside target there for hogs. Even cheese. I mean, I was looking at cheese, downside target there, and milk. So I love looking at charts or anything and just seeing what the targets say. Sugar, much more liquid. As I mentioned, I've been working with a sugar trading firm here in Australia, and you can see here, waiting for that downside target to activate. And if we go on the 60-minute, they have activated there. So that is looking likely to activate. Of course, if you're trading that, you go to the 1 minute. Cocoa, this has been in a downtrend, having had a stellar year back in 2024. This has been in a downtrend, and really those downside targets been met. And we look at the 60-minute for cocoa, similar picture, downside targets there as well. So that's quite key. Corn, we go back to the medium-term daily chart for corn, upside target, but we just had this real reset there. Maize, and again, I worked with a great trading company here in Australia last year, and really we see just how looking at all of these commodities with the charts really quite key. Upside target there, but not yet activated for wheat, one to watch. Cotton, that's going to be quite key, just not yet breaking higher. And coffee has also been a bit of a mixed picture. Anyway, we've got quite an interesting lot there going on in commodities, but that copper chart is probably the one that's really caught my attention. That's it for today. Have a great weekend. Bye for now.